How's it going, boys, girls, and squirrels? I've done it. After months and months of tireless work, research, and ridicule from my peers, I've done it. I did what nobody thought I could do. I finally read a book written for children! For those of you who don't know, after the series finale of Gravity Falls, Alex Hirsch put out Journal 3, which is essentially a prequel, sequel, and duringquil to the original series. If that sounds confusing, don't worry, it's not. It's actually super fucking cool. And several months ago, I told you guys that I would review this book once I was finished reacting to Gravity Falls. Oh my god, Danny, what a great idea, saving this review for spooky season, I hear you guys shout. Nope, I wish that were the original intention. It unironically took me several months to finish reading this. This hellish brick of paper is filled front to back with hieroglyphics, archaic symbols, and secret codes. Symbols that my research has concluded are known in many cultures as letters. Letters that combine to form words. Words which combine to form sentences. And I found over time that as my eyes scanned upon these sentences, my brain began absorbing the knowledge that they possessed. And so imagine my surprise when, after overcoming that seemingly insurmountable hurdle, I discover that the book is also filled with fucking nonsense. It is filled with codes that not only took me fucking forever to translate, and don't worry, I translated all of them, but 90% of them aren't even worth it. There's one code in here that translates to "kill me, please." That's pretty good, but by the time I finished deciphering it, I was 90% sure I was the one who fucking wrote it. And there are a couple of really substantial codes in here that lead to some, actual important information, and I'll get into those later, but otherwise, most of them just serve to piss me off. So as a result, this will be a codeless video. I know Gravity Falls and Journal 3 are both known for being full of secrets and mysteries and codes. Don't expect any of that shit here. I couldn't be bothered. This is a completely literal and unmysterious video from this point on. Another thing that slowed me down from making this video sooner is the fact that most of the book is in fucking cursive. Now, at the time of writing that joke, I intended to flip to a page that was written in cursive. However, since God and this fucking book both hate me, I instead, completely by accident, turned to a page written entirely in code. Most of the book is written in cursive, although if it were written entirely in code, it probably would have been just as difficult for me to read. By the way, speaking of things that pissed me off, can you believe the bottomless pit gets a full 2-page spread, and I only get a quarter of a page on the Hoctopus? Dude, I crushed that. I pointed right to that thing. Cursive is so whack. It's like reading a language you know 80% of the letters to. Most of the letters look identical to their non-cursive counterparts, but then every now and then I'll reach an S or an R, and my brain will come to a screeching halt as it tries to figure out if what it just read was actually fucking English. I complained about this to my girlfriend, and she, like a sweetheart trying to relate to me, was like, "Ugh, I know, Z is the worst." And I, like an asshole, was like, "Wow, nice. Thanks for the useless input. How often am I gonna run into a Z in this book?" And then proceeded to get stuck on the word amazingly for 9 minutes. This was further exacerbated when I ran into the words bizarre, razor, wizard, and then a full chapter on zombies. Once again, I am become Icarus, the sun's bitch. Also, none of the pages are numbered, which I knew would make taking notes on this book a pain in the ass, so I had to go through and number every single one of them. It's like the book doesn't want to be read. Also, final note, I couldn't stop reading this in J.K. Simmons' voice, which for some reason also slowed me down. I didn't like it. Freaked me out. Get out of my head, J.K. Simmons! Okay, so with all of that out of the way, what even is this book? Well, It's Journal 3, in truly the most literal sense. And spoiler, it's also, unironically, a very good book. I love lore-expanding companion pieces to books, movies, TV shows, whatever. This kind of stuff is right up my alley. I devour this stuff. I have a world book for League of Legends, Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Stormlight Archives. It's unironically my favorite type of media. And Journal 3, without even a drop of exaggeration, is without a doubt the best piece of expanded world material I've ever experienced. Not only is it absolutely dense with content, but it's got amazing production value, especially for the price, and it's got a gripping story. The value here alone is insane. I thought this was gonna be like a half-assed, like, cash grab you'd find at your local 4th grade book fair. You know, like, half of it would be a sticker book and the other half is like, did you know Dipper Pine's birthday is this day and this is his favorite cheese. But not only does it tell a really engaging story, but it also develops Ford's and McGucket's characters way beyond the show had a chance to. The gimmick of the book is that it's as if you found Ford's actual Journal 3. So it's a series of journal entries that range from before the show to a little bit after the events of it. The first page opens with a note from like the Oregon State Police or whatever, and the note reads, "We believe this book to be either a prank by high schoolers or the ramblings of a local fraud. But since discovering this book, a number of our troopers have had headaches and disturbing nightmares. We have logged it into our records and are now putting it up for purchase at our annual confiscated item sale/bake-off. Please take this cursed thing off our hands." That would have scared the shit out of me as a kid. I wasn't fucking around with cursed books as a child. If a book told me not to read it, I listened. I was so ill-equipped for, like, meta-type narratives, whether it be comedic or horror-based. Ironically, something this does both of. I took that shit way too seriously. If I read that first page, genuinely, I would have just put this back on the shelf and never opened it again. But anyway, the book is essentially divided into 3 sections. Section 1, the best part of the book. The first third of the book is fire, because it's the third with the most new information in it. It's a prequel to the series and alternates between journal entries chronicling Ford's research on different monsters and oddities in Gravity Falls, and then more narrative-style journal entries. It's funny because the first few pages of the book establish this journal as this, like, scholarly text and explain how Ford got all of his funding through grants and government research. And then the very next page looks like it's written by Arkham Asylum's most insane inmate. "My unparalleled intellect and research grant funding, I will finally get to the bottom of my decades-long research. Gnomes! And how to kill them!" Now, like I said, half of this book acts as a sort of, like, encyclopedia on the different oddities found within Gravity Falls, which makes a lot of sense, both like, narratively, because that's literally what this journal is supposed to be in the context of the show, but also just as a product to sell to children. And there are some really good ones in here too, like the Scampfire, the Soothe Skeeto, and something called a Leprechaun, which is really funny. A lot of these are very funny and cute, and it's cool to see some of Alex Hirsch's creativity that didn't end up making its way into the actual show. And if I were a kid, these would probably be my favorite sections of the book. I could see a kid having a blast running around their attic, pretending to hunt ghosts and using this book as a makeshift field guide, even if the ghost categories are bullshit. There's a section in here where Ford ranks different categories of ghosts, and the ranking is fucking whack. Category 5, Soul Suckers. Soul suckers feed on the life force of their human prey. They work slowly and silently. Given enough time, they can consume their victim's entire soul. Sounds pretty intense, right? Category 7, the Eternal Key, a ghost that's allegedly 2 categories more dangerous than the Soul Sucker. One desperate soul in each generation is transformed into the Eternal Key, an unhappy apparition who never knows what she's supposed to do or where she's supposed to be. How is a ghost that literally sucks the life out of you less dangerous than a ghost that's literally just a sad fucking key? So the encyclopedia pages are great for children, but as an adult, they're probably my least favorite parts of the book. Now, that's not to say that they're, like, poorly written or even uninteresting. It's just that, in my opinion, the narrative portions of this book, especially the narrative portions that give us an insight to events we didn't get to learn about in the show itself, are vastly more interesting. Except for pages 22 and 23. These were firing on all cylinders. The cow, part owl, lays milk-filled eggs, calls moo. Even more of a paradox than its cousin, the parrot ox. I mean, this shit's just gold. On page 12, we're introduced to Ford's muse, which is an extra-dimensional being that appears to him in his dreams and helps him with his research. And, anyone want to perhaps take a guess on what geometric shape the muse might be? In the show, Ford tells Dipper that Bill tricked him into summoning Bill into our dimension. But in Journal 3, we get to see that manipulation actually unfold. I was contacted by a muse. I know it sounds crazy, but a strange being from a higher plane took sympathy with my search for knowledge, and amazingly, chose me to be a receptacle for divine and otherworldly insight. I'm gonna circle back to that. We'll be right back. We also get to see Ford and McGucket's relationship prior to Fiddleford's insanity, and it's real sad. Seeing McGucket be such a loving friend, husband, and father, and knowing where he eventually ends up, it's tough. It's also interesting because the book positions Ford as the reason for Fiddleford's eventual insanity, as Ford's constantly manipulating and pushing him into doing stuff he doesn't want to do that results in Fiddleford becoming traumatized. And this is why the first third is my favorite section of the book. You get to see Bill manipulating Ford. You get to see McGucket and Ford's relationship blossom and then deteriorate. You get to see Ford's mental state crumble as he's consumed with both ambition and paranoia, and it all culminates into my absolute favorite page of the book. I know I'm kind of doing like a half spoiler-free, half spoiler review of this book. Everything that I've said up until this point, it's spoilers technically, but like you can still get the maximum amount of enjoyment out of this book. Like, it's the journey, not the destination with this. What I'm about to show you right here, though, if you haven't read this book, skip ahead, like, 2 minutes or so. Maybe not that long. Skip ahead, like, 30 seconds or something like that. Anyway, I'm gonna read it. So for starters, this is what the page looks like. Everything's kind of building to a peak. Ford's getting paranoid. He's afraid that his research isn't actually gonna work. Fiddleford wants him to stop his research because he thinks it's getting too dangerous. Something is not right. I'm used to having the muse's voice in my head on occasion. Now suddenly I hear whispers, murmuring voices of beasts, the echoing howls of lost souls. This is not right at all. It is almost as though my muse is contacting others, ghouls from another world. The more I listen, the more I am convinced it is not my imagination. My head throbs. My right eye burns. I heard my muse say something. The door is open. What have I done? And then the very next page looks like this. I've never had a book fucking jump scare me before. But boy oh boy, did this give me a full body sensation of chills. This is so fucking good. This is so well paced, especially because then after that, it's all blood. It's all paranoia as Ford starts to tape his eyelids open because he's terrified of falling asleep and letting Bill into his mind. This page with the taped eyelids, as everything's starting crescendo, here's how that page starts. I'll be damned if I let that demon deceive me again. It's a fucking swear on the blood-soaked page of this children's book. Let's go. It's awesome, dude. It's the best part of the book. It goes full tilt into horror. No comedy at all, and it's so effective, and it's so enthralling, and it leads directly into Chapter 2, which is Section 2, the worst part of the book. Hey there, my name is Dipper Pines, and from now on, I'll be the one writing in this book. This fucking dork. Section 2 is fine. It's the only section that isn't written in fucking cursive, so at least that made it easier to read. It's really tough to judge Section 2 of Journal 3, because it's at this point that you realize Alex Hirsch really wrote himself into a lose-lose situation. Dipper's a 12-year-old boy, so it makes sense that his writing is cringy and bad. That's immersive. I get it. But the trade-off to that is that you have to read cringy and bad writing. And okay, it's not bad, but I just got done reading an incredibly gripping horror chapter that impressed me with how mature and intense it was able to make this property. And then that got interrupted by fucking Dipper. Most of Ford's pages are covered in blood, and he just dropped the first swear in the series history, and most of Dipper's pages are written in colored pencil. Which author do you think I'm gonna be more invested in? Section 2 is fun though. It's a series of journal entries chronicling all of the events that happen in the show from Dipper's POV. There's a Fight Fighters entry, a Summerween entry, genuinely an entry on every single episode in chronological order, and some adventures that didn't make it into the show. There's a chapter about a baby velociraptor that the kids snuck home after the prehistoric episode, and Wax Larry King even gets some resolution. And those are the best parts of this section. The parts where Dipper is reminiscing about, adventures he went on in the show are fun, because you do get some, extra bonus material on that, but I love when Alex Hirsch uses this book as an opportunity to tie up loose ends. Blendon gets an entire 2-page spread that explains his and Time Baby's fate. And it's all written in fucking code. Giffany and Rumble McSkirmish both get really satisfying conclusions, and it even kind of canonizes Dipsifica, which is sick. But yeah, it's a fun section, a fun walk down memory lane that I think would be more effective if I were a child, or if I read this when it released and watched the show when it released. I finished Gravity Falls 6 months ago, I think, something like that. So it's still super fresh in my mind. If I read this 5 years after finishing Gravity Falls, all the chapters that chronicle each episode of the show would feel a lot cooler and a lot more nostalgic to me. But going straight from the show right into this book, you're kind of all right, cool, did you bring me back to Ford already? Christ. And that leads us to Section 3! Oh, thank God, Ford is back! Ford returns at the beginning of Season 2, and mercifully takes away the journal from Dipper fucking Pines. Section 3 is a lot like Section 2, where it just chronicles the events of Season 2 of the show, but there are some major narrative additions. We get to see some of the different dimensions Ford traveled to, how he got his anti-Bill gun, and it even talks about what I'm assuming is the god of the Gravity Falls universe, some type of being known as the Axolotl. They don't talk too much about it. I'm wondering if there's more in the Book of Bill, but it's interesting. It's a weird expansion of the universe I wasn't really expecting. But most importantly, we get to see Ford go through what I felt was an incredibly satisfying character arc. He goes from a lone wolf who only values his own ambitions and intellect to a man who deeply values his family. Ford famously wrote, "Trust no one," at the beginning of this journal, and there's an incredible moment in this book, probably my second favorite moment, where Ford reflects back on this and kind of laughs at himself for being so edgy and angsty. Trust no one. What an absurd and paranoid idea. Trust shouldn't be given unconditionally, but it should be given a chance to be earned. That's so fucking cool. That's so cool that they loop that around and make it like the core theme of his character. That is Alex Hirsch using the concept of this book to its fullest potential. And it's, now that I read it again, I think it is actually my favorite part of the book. The Bill jump scare is great, but like, that was when I was like, oh fuck, this is like well written. I can't say enough good things about this book. It, like, if you haven't read it and you're a Gravity Falls fan, it's a must read. Like, genuinely a must read. And if you haven't watched Gravity Falls, pick this up and let me know what you thought. I really want to know what this book is like to someone who's never seen the show. Like, is this a good story? Can you follow along, or is it unbelievably confusing? The story is gripping, it's dense with content, the production value's insane. There isn't a single wasted page. Every page has some type of beautiful illustration, diagram, code, something on that. I feel like usually with these kinds of world books, you inevitably run into like a few pages in a row that are just massive walls of text, and you're kind of bored visually, and you're like, come on, when's the next mind-blowing piece of artwork gonna show up? This is all that. Every page has so much work put into it. And it's an addicting read, too. The fact that every page to 2 pages is its own unique journal entry means that even if you're stuck reading a section that, like, you're not fully invested in, or you're like, I don't really want to learn about, like, the gnomes or whatever, literally, after you turn the page, it's gonna be an entirely new subject. So if you're a fan of Gravity Falls, it is kind of impossible to get bored with this. The second you get bored, you just move on, and it's something new and exciting all over again. After seeing what this book is able to do with horror, I cannot wait to read the Book of Bill. I'm hoping to get that out at the end of the month. This is a 2-part spook 'em up marathon. I really like this. This is like an unbelievable amount of value for the price, but also like if this were, allegedly this is like $20. Who knows what it is with inflation, and sometimes I just kind of buy shit without looking at the price, so I don't remember. But the jacket says $20. If this were $40, I'd still recommend it. I'd recommend this at $40 to a child. You know, like not even to a rich fancy pants. That's how actually good it is if you like this stuff. If you are like me and you are afraid that it's gonna be a bunch of like redundant nonsense material, it's not at all. Like, it is its own unique story with fun, exciting callbacks and references to the original show. Section 2 is all callbacks and references, with some loose ends being tied and like fun insight into Dipper's mind. But like sections 1 and 3 are where you're gonna get the meat of things. All the Bill stuff is great. It's all so good. The way that they frame it is genius. It's so genius. This was so worth learning to read for. Seeing Ford be excited to meet with Bill every night and hear how like manipulative and enticing Bill is, but knowing what he is awesome. Anyway, glowing review, genuinely like 9 out of 10. I can't even like give it lower than a 10, genuinely, because like my only gripe is that section 2 is a little slow, but it has to exist. And it's only slow because I just finished Gravity Falls, you know, and because I'm an adult. For a kid, it's a perfect 10 out of 10. For an adult, it's a perfect 10 out of 10. I'm just like cynical and a douche. Yeah. It's great, man. It's just great. I'm so glad I read this. Let me know in the comments if you've read this book. If not, has my review enticed you to? Have you read the Book of Bill? Should I be excited? Should I dread it? It's a little thinner than this journal. There's a ton of fucking pages, too. That's the thing. It's, to my count, almost 300 pages. It's 290 pages. 285. It's 285 pages. Book of Bill is a little shorter from what I can tell. I'm hoping it's as dense. I'm interested to see. I don't know. I just know nothing about it. I'm interested to see. Have a great October, and I will see you guys.
Is it all